Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Higher Moment Mastermind. I am Shira Lodzar, your host. I am a career coach and a recruiter, and I love to help people with their branding to get noticed by employers. And I am joined today by Tenny Good, who is a federal government resume expert. She also is a former HR executive, so she sees things on all kinds of sectors. I'm also joined by Vern Schellinger, who is a master networker. He is with Contacts Count, and he's also a career coach. And so we are going to have our open Q&A today like we normally do. But before we get going, we have a victory speech. Kelly Nugent landed a job.
Yay, Kelly.
Yay. So Kelly, can you give us sort of a very brief nugget, like a lesson learned or how you got the job or something you'd like to share?
Sure. Hello, everyone, and a very great relief. Got a job. I got the offer last week, but didn't find out until about Friday, and then they finalized some things on Sunday and Monday, and then took the offer. So I'll be working for JK Moving Services as an inside sales specialist.
Okay.
And I was referred to them by a friend of mine back in the springtime, and had an interview, and they weren't hiring anybody for an outside account executive. And then I saw another opening a couple weeks ago. I reached out to John I had the interview with, and he goes, you know what, I don't want to put you out in the wool, into the wolves, starting off, as a sales rep, learning, since you've never been in the industry. So what I'd like you to do is be an inside sales specialist for about 9 months to a year, get acclimated with the process procedure, sell, small jobs, help out with the sales team, and then in 9 to 12 months, we'll see where you are, and then bring you on as an outside account executive. So, but I tell you though, it's been a long journey. Lost my job back in August of last year. I was shaking a little bit, but with Career Network Ministry, Bob Korzeniski, a lot of volunteers, and I can't thank Shira Lodzar enough for all the stuff she's done for me over the past, I'd say probably 9 months. And I got to know her personally, and she got to know me and helped me out and give me a lot of advice, and just all around good, honest, and caring human being. And a couple of weeks ago we sat and talked for a little bit, and we prayed together. And also Rob Jollis helped me out a lot too as accountability coach. I was also on the accountability team at CNM, and just taking the advice, and just at times I was overwhelmed, but just did step by step and just worked on things, and things worked out. And a little anxious, but you know what, ready for a new start. And all I can just say to anybody on this call, don't give up, stay positive, optimistic, and take care of yourself mentally, physically, and spiritually.
Amen.
And just really be grateful. And another thing is too, and I always say this for everyone, in my life, is just try to be there for other people, help other people out, because it will always come back to you tenfold. And I know with both my professional career and my personal career, I've gone out of the way to help out people, and it's come back to me tenfold. And there's no way I could pay back the universe and God and other things. And these past 6 years have been very challenging for me. And losing a son 5 years ago was very tough. But with God and family and friends, you get through all these challenges. And I don't know. So I hope that was short enough, but I just want to thank everyone, Shira and Vern, and I know some other people are not on here. And of course, Carolyn, at CNM, and she's a part of the accountability group, and she's just an amazing young lady, and what she's done with her life, and getting back into the career after 10 years absence, and just absorbing everything. And she's a role model of how this works. Of course, Sandra George always smiling and just chatting, and then some other people on here too. But I'm just totally grateful, and it's all because of God, my family, and the people on Higher Moment Mastermind Insurance, Career Network Ministry, Rob Jollis, and also I attended another one more thing was Patricia Rambotelli. She does Career Bulletproof Bulletproof Your Career and you should check it out every Thursday at 7:45. There's about over 600 people on the call. She gives a lot of great advice on interviewing, resume writing, LinkedIn, and all that stuff. But if you need help on your resume and LinkedIn, you need to go to Shira. She is a rock star. She knows her stuff. She's phenomenal. So anyway, that's it for me. I'll be quiet, and thank you very much, Shira, for just allowing me to talk. But just thanks for being a friend and a good human being, and I'll never forget what you've done for me in the past 9 months. God
Well,
bless.
God bless you, Kelly. We are so excited for you, and thank you for your encouraging words, and yes and amen to all of it you said. So
Congratulations.
yeah, congratulations. Okay,
Thank you.
so with that, we wanted to, kick off our conversation. And actually, so Tenny, Vern, and I were chatting, as we do. We always chat a little bit before this call just to kind of, see if there's anything that we want to share. And Tenny and I actually want to have a little conversation about this concept called of transferable skills, right? So a lot of you are making career shifts. And a lot of you are like, look, I have an interest in this new field, career field, or a new industry, or what have you. And I've got transferable skills that can be relatable. And there are different perspectives on that. And I wanted to kind of have a little bit of a conversation with Tenny in front of you both, because she and I actually have different perspectives. We're both in sort of the HR world. And I thought, almost like not going to debate, right, necessarily, but I think it's good to hear, two different sides of the coin. So Tenny, do you want to start by sharing your perspective on this?
Sure. I believe strongly in the 3 A's: aptitude, ability, and attitude. And the greatest of those is attitude. Sometimes as an HR, somebody just comes in the pipeline that just has something, and it's a gut instinct. On their resume, their technical skills, their hard skills may be light, but maybe they have really marketed their soft skills well. Maybe it's a resume that just looks like the person has it all together, and that person may get a phone screen. And then the hiring manager may say, you know what? They have the bare minimum skills of what we've announced for as far as years of experience or education, but there's just something there. So I believe that kind of marketing soft skills can sometimes open an opportunity for at least a conversation of a phone screen or a face-to-face or whatnot, where you can shine. Because I will tell you, so many people will say, if they would just talk to me, they would see what I have to offer, but trying to get it through that wicket of the resume. So I believe in putting soft skills on resumes.
Thanks, Tenny. I appreciate that. So I have had a different perspective on that. And again, you're hearing two very experienced people, right, share their sides. So, as a recruiter, now I'm not HR, but I am a third-party recruiter. I have, been asked by employers to find what they call unicorn candidates, right? Sure, Tenny, you've been in that. Vern, you've been in that situation. Sonia, you've been in that situation, right? Where hiring managers are asking for the unicorn, the purple squirrel, the person with 12 out of 10 skills. And no, I did not just misspeak. Okay, so that's what I'm used to. And as a result, I have found that emphasizing hard skills on a resume is going to be, I feel, more important. Now, again, two different perspectives, right? Both very, very valid. But you got to really just think about this. Because to me, when an employer, hiring manager, recruiter scans down the resume and they do the first pass, they want to know, can you, have you? Because they've got lots of resumes to screen, especially if it's a job that they've posted publicly. Okay. Now, if it's hidden from the market, if they're doing a confidential search and they're not putting it out to market, they might be, just going through the referrals, they're networking, in which case it's a much smaller pool. And they actually may be a little bit more, to me, maybe more open to more of the app hire and aptitude, train and skill. If they've posted it publicly, then they're getting usually a deluge of resumes, and then they can't hire everybody. They certainly can't interview everybody. They have to narrow it down. And the narrowing down process is, can you, have you? Do you have the hard skills that we're looking for? Do you have, hopefully, the industry experience that we're looking for? So if you're trying to make a career shift, it is incredibly important to do your very, very best to highlight the hard skills and the industry experience that you feel is directly related. Nothing is wrong with highlighting soft skills, but if you only highlight the soft skills and not the hard or the industry experience, it's going to be less likely that you'll get pulled out of the pile of the masses of people that have been that have been applying for that very job, if that makes sense, right? Because it's really, really important to show them that I always say this, right? You're minimizing their risk in the hire. So as a result, what you need to do is look at the qualifications section on the job posting. Look at the first 3 to 4 bullets, not the 7th, 8th, and 21st bullet, where they're always talking about soft skills, right? But the first, second, and third, where they mention industry experience, they mention some hard skills, right? They specific, in fact, you know what I'd like to do? I want to do a little case study right now, because I actually have a client that I'm going to be talking with next week. And she just sent me a few job descriptions, okay? And it's really fun. Just this morning, she sent them to me. And I want to share, I'll just share one of them with you, because I'm going to be doing this hands-on with her next week, where we're going to look at her background, her resume, her hard skills and industry experience, and compare it to what they want, okay? So I'm just going to share this with you. All right, so here's one of the jobs that she is interested in. And I'm skipping down the whole thing. I'm going straight for the requirements. Okay, all right, so here we go. So this is for JP Morgan. We're obviously in the financial services industry. And it's a regulatory affair. So you see here the federal government relations job. So what they want is, okay, so policy or regulatory development experience makes sense, right? Government relations. But notice what else they said here. Deep understanding of what? Financial services. That makes sense too, because that's the sector that they're in. All right. And then, yeah, sure, leadership skills, strategic thinking, to Tenny's point, right? All the soft skills. Lobbying outcomes at federal level. So they obviously want a lobbyist, that kind of thing, right? And then all the rest of this here is just very soft skillish, okay? But in order for her to be qualified, we need to make sure that she has got this right here, okay? And that's why, to me, that piece is really important. Yes, the other is important for sure. In fact, if anything, it's the interview, to me, it's the interview where the soft skills often come out. So I believe that people get screened in on their hard skills and they get hired on their soft skills, right? So that would be my perspective. Tenny, anything else you want to share about that?
But also add to that, and again, I agree, we both have great valid points to it, but I think it also comes down to the position itself, what the industry is that you're going into and what the company is looking for. Yes. I agree totally. You have to be qualified for the job first. But if you were looking at a position that wasn't financial, but maybe social worker or some type of an advocacy position, you might see those soft skills a little bit higher on the list. So I think it goes to a balance of what type of position you're going for in industry. Those that are real career changers, like no kidding, zebra to bunny rabbit kind of career changers, then you might not see as many of the competency hard skills if they are looking for more of an entry-level position or a position that they're just now jumping into. Saying that, when the federal government is looking to hire, which of course is what we do at the Fed job results, is of course they're going to look at those hard skills first. And we even teach folks that on the qualifications section, just like you said, it's always from the most important to the least important to that agency. So you do have to focus on that. And sometimes you'll see soft skills like the ability to effectively communicate orally and written, and you may see some of those relationship built competencies. But in most cases, it's going to be those hard skills. So I totally agree with you, but I think your due diligence comes in the research, because if you know who you're applying to, you've really researched them, then you're going to know the value of those soft skills to them as well.
Great. Hopefully that was helpful. Get two different perspectives here. All right, so with that, let's go ahead and open up the conversation, the open Q&A. So who has a job search question they would like to ask?
I do.
David.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for taking my time. On that note, related to displaying your hard or soft skills specifically on any given resume, generally speaking, do you have time frame for how long it should take to apply to a job. And I say that because you can spend 3 days revising a resume, writing a perfect cover letter, doing the research, getting all of your, everything in a row. And I know that sometimes I get mired in those details. So I'm curious to know if you could provide a sort of a guideline or even just, I don't know, an hour or, any thoughts on that?
Yeah. So my opinion, and Vernon, Tanny, would love to hear yours as well. I'm not going to necessarily frame it in terms of time exactly, but more in terms of the quality. Okay. So first of all, if you have a resume that is already keyword focused, okay, where you've got keywords not only in the top, like in a skill section, but also labeled next to each accomplishment. Okay, so you have your accomplishment stories, but then you have a bolded a skill label. So, accomplishment is X, blah, 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 couple few lines. And then to the left of it, it says, budget management, or it says stakeholder relations or project management, whatever the skill is, right? If you already have that, it's going to take you a lot less time to customize your resume. Okay, so that's an efficiency thing, because you really want to focus on those key skills. Having a headline at the top of your resume, right, that actually says, healthcare IT executive, whatever it is. Okay, nonprofit marketing professional or something. Those are the areas that you can customize pretty quickly. Then it's your cover letter that you are going to want to spend some time on. Okay. Again, you can have a generic one, but really needs to be customized, every single paragraph. Why you're interested in that mission, highlighting your qualifications. There's this concept that's called a crosswalk. Actually, I'd never heard of it until recently. I'd known what it was, but I didn't know some people call it a crosswalk. And basically it's your requirements, my qualifications, and it's in a table. Okay. And you can put that right there in the cover letter, in the cover letter. And so the point is that if you have an efficient template ready to go, it shouldn't take you that long to do the customization, right? Shouldn't take you 3 days, probably more than an hour. Okay. But it's you're not starting from scratch. Okay. You have something really, it's the 80% that you're working with. And then you go through that job announcement, qualification by qualification, and say, okay, look, they're highlighting these particular skill sets. I highlighted these skill sets on my resume, but you know what? I actually have these other ones. So I'm going to shift the labels, right? I mean, maybe you could even use the same accomplishment stories potentially, but just change the labels and then make sure that your cover letter, has customization to it, right? Vernon, Tenny, do you want to?
I would agree with everything Shira had just said, and that, if you really work at it, one day, 4, 5, 6 hours working on that, I'd do that. I'd let it rest for a day. I'd come back the next day refreshed and just go through it again, fine tune it, and then I would send it. So that'd be my guideline. Maybe you spend a couple of days getting ready to send whatever you need to send in, but no longer than that.
Yeah. Yeah, because these jobs go quickly.
Yes.
Even if the job is posted for a while, the employer is screening the first people that come to their desk.
Yeah.
And if they get to a point where they're saturated and they've got the right person, they may not, want to interview anybody else.
Yeah.
Okay, hopefully that's helpful. Good. All right, Dia.
I just wanted to follow up on his question. How do you keep this from turning into a novella? I mean, there's so much stuff you got to cram into your cover letter, but it shouldn't be too long. Your resume should only be 1 page or whatever. I mean, there's so much information that they're seeking, but it's getting overwhelming, to be honest.
Well, so first of all, resume should be not 1 page. Okay, that's yesteryear. The only person who should have a 1-page resume is a recent grad. That's it. If you as a senior, if you as a senior seasoned person have a 1-page resume, that's actually making you look too light. Okay, you should have a 2-page resume. In fact, I have no problem with 2.5 to 3 pages for senior level folks. Now, put the federal government aside, put government contracting aside. If you are those two, do not listen to what I'm about to say. But if you're everybody else, okay, or sorry, academics, all right, those 3 areas. But everybody else, a 3-page resume for a seasoned person is fine. It's not going to screen you out. Trust me. An employer who looks at that 3-page resume is not gonna say, oh, I can't believe they added an extra page. No, now don't give them 10, okay? But 2 or 3, absolutely. It gives you, so you don't have to worry that much about, kind of cramming everything in. What I would encourage you to do is look at every single job and come up with several, not 10, okay, but several accomplishment stories per job. That could be 3, that could be 6, something like that. Each accomplishment story so you want to have a master resume, and the master resume starts with the accomplishment stories that really reflects your brand, okay? The kinds of skills that what I call high engaged skills, where you're highly skilled and highly motivated to do, right? So you have got accomplishment stories like these were superpowers that you exhibited, you love doing these things, you have accomplishment, and then as I said earlier, label them, right? But then when you get to that particular unique job, it's kind of like your master resume is every spice in the cabinet. But when you want to make the Korean dish, you pull out those spices, and the Italian dish, you pull out those spices, right? So you pull out the accomplishment stories that are most relevant, and then again you change the labels. And then with the cover letter, definitely make a cover letter 1 page. I mean, if it goes a little over, fine, but really do try to keep that 1 page. And you have a nice opening, and the opening is going to be obviously the thank you for your consideration, but it talks about why you're interested in this role. And then you can have a second paragraph around talking about your general qualifications. And then if you want to have that crosswalk, that table, your qualifications, your requirements, my qualifications, that kind of thing, and then just sum it up. But what you definitely want to do is make sure that it is customized, that you're showing the employer that you've taken the time, right, to read this thing. You've taken the time to tailor it, because if it comes across as too generic, they're going to feel that. They're going to realize that you didn't really read it. They're going to think you don't really care. They're not going to think that you're a critical thinker. Like, there's so much subtleties to this, right? But if you really take the time and are very, very thoughtful, man, talk about the soft skills that Tenny was mentioning. That comes through loud and clear when you take the time to customize.
Yeah. Well, one other thing about customizing it, certainly you're going to go to the organization's website, and again, on any website, it talks about their mission, it talks about their vision, it talks about their values. Look for any keywords in there, especially a keyword that you really believe in, and maybe have even demonstrated in your accomplishments. Sure. Make sure that gets maybe into your cover letter, or make sure it's in your resume. Again, that's an example of them. That, as Shira says, that's an example where it's clear to them that you've done some research on this company.
Yeah. And also that what's going on in the market, what's the disruptions facing the XYZ sector, that they're in, it's a critical time for this role to be blah, 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 blah. You can borrow language from the job posting. Yeah. In fact, I did a cover letter for a client recently, and I'm going to pull it up, and I'm going to see if I can just hide the name, because I actually did that very thing. I quoted. Give me one second here. Okay, here we go. Okay, so this is somebody who's in the college access world. Okay. And so what I did here was I actually quoted, okay? So I said, I wholeheartedly agree with the search announcement, which highlights the need for, and this was literally a quote, okay? So I referenced it, highlights the need for this concept, okay? Bolstering post-secondary outcomes for students of color. And then right here at the end, so I pulled out a lot of her accomplishments. And then here, again, pulled a quote, okay? So it was very, very tailored, very, very customized. The whole thing, right, started out with acknowledging what they were talking about, making sure that the cover letter really spoke to her experiences that related to what they were talking about, sample accomplishments that related to what they were talking about, and then wrapped it up with a direct quote, okay? So it is important to take the time to do something that's very thoughtful. Okay, Clarissa.
So piggybacking on what you just said, how do you then make sure that then when somebody goes and checks your LinkedIn profile, which is a little bit more broad and doesn't have some of these specifics necessarily to it, that you're not, contradicting yourself or looking as though
It's a great question. I get that all the time. Bye, Kelly. Good to see you. Congratulations again. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that shall I say, the guts of your resume are consistent. In other words, the responsibilities, even some of the accomplishments that you share on your resume, there are going to be certain ones that you are going to be repeating over and over again. You may change the label, but you're going to have the same accomplishments. Maybe there are 2 or 3 of them. So on your LinkedIn, you make sure that those are the ones that you mention. Now you're not going to label anything on LinkedIn. LinkedIn, you can't boldface. So you would just put the straight up accomplishment. You put your responsibility. So you got your title, right? Got your little responsibilities, and then maybe 2 or 3 bullets, the ones that you are going to be using every single time on your resume. That's how you show consistency.
thank you.
Sure. All right, other questions? Sonia.
I was listening to what you all say, because I'm one of those 3-page resume people, because I have over 30 years in HR and over 25 years in GovCon. And it's just like what I think it was Dia that started this conversation. You can't put everything in the resume. What I ended up doing, because there's so much. If you work for GovCon, remember now, from an HR perspective, a lot of that is compliance and legalities and things like that. I created a resume addendum, and I highlighted stuff just for GovCon in that addendum, different functions, audits, working with service contract that, all that. You can't put all of that in your resume. And then when they want additional information, because like a lot of times when you apply, they have a section in there that say additional documents. I just submit that with it and cross my fingers, eyes, and toes that it will work. So I don't know if that'll help anybody or not, but it has worked for me to land interviews.
Okay. Addendums can be fine. As long as the resume and cover letter themselves are customized, then anything else is supplemental. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Good. All right. Other thoughts, comments, questions?
Sure, there was a question on job fairs in the chat. Yeah, Linda asked about lots of job fairs. You can't really customize your resume. How do you handle the whole resume thing when you go to a job fair? You can't have 10 different versions of it.
Well, that's true. That's absolutely true. The thing with the job fair, though, is that the employer, they have openings, right? But they're shopping around. They're looking for, they're trying to figure out who's a good fit for what, right? So there's no way, obviously, that you can customize. I would say that at least have a resume that is geared toward that industry, if at all possible. Okay. If there is a particular type of job, especially if you have seen that kind of job on their website, you can try to, get the resume a little bit more customized in that direction. Say, look, I'm looking for project management roles, and this is my resume for this. You could even have a couple of different ones if you need to. But I would say just try to really look at the type of jobs that they're looking for, and especially if there's any sort of industry customization, that's kind of the best that you can do. But no, you can't really customize because you don't know necessarily what the one job is.
Yeah.
Here's what I would recommend on that is usually whoever is sponsoring the job fair or career fair will have a list of potential employers that are going to be there. I would always try to get a hold of that list prior to the event. I've always told clients, don't try to go to booth 1 through 86. because they don't all apply to you and you'd be exhausted by the end of it anyway.
Yeah.
So get a list of employers and target 5 to 8 companies that you really want to go visit. The one thing I would do is if I know that Dell is going to be at a hiring event, I would be going to Dell's website. I would be looking at what opportunities Dell has open, so that when you are at that hiring event and you get to go face to face with somebody from Dell, you can say, whoosh, here's my resume for position 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm very interested in it. Please let me know what else I can do. It shows so much about you as a job seeker, and it shows to them the way you approach a job opportunity is the way you're going to be as an employee. So if you think ahead and you can get a list of names of who's going to be there and you can target a few companies, I think that serves you well. That's not to say that you should avoid everybody else at the hiring event. It's always good to go shopping around and looking and just making sure that you're paying attention to what else is there. But I always believe in a hit list for hiring events. Find out who's there and target them like nobody's business. Walk up to them and let them know, I know you and you want to know me.
Yeah.
Makes perfect sense. Thanks, Tenny.
Yeah.
All right, Sandy.
Hi. Actually, I wanted to share a success, and I told my daughter-in-law, Carrie Gorel, that I would share this with you. And I say that for you, Shira, because I think you know her.
Oh, sorry. Who's your daughter?
My daughter-in-law is Carrie Gorel.
Your daughter-in-law is Carrie Gorel? Oh my gosh,
Yes.
she's one of my favorite people. That's amazing.
So
That's great.
I wanted to share all of this, and I'm hoping that the background noise doesn't get obnoxious here. I've been on a kind of nomad journey for about 3 weeks now, and I have 2 weeks left of my journey. And I came from Texas to Tennessee, and I'm staying in Maryland now until August 2nd. And while I used to live here, so while I was here, I hooked up with a friend for dinner, and she has some problems because of COVID. So she left early. As I was leaving the restaurant, a band was coming into play, and they were joking around like, hey, why don't you stay? And I thought, I will. So I stayed, listened to the set. I went to leave and thought, let me go back and say thank you for them asking me to stay. I did that. Started a conversation, and this is into the networking piece of things. Started having a conversation with one of the band members. We exchanged information, talked a little bit. He asked about my background. I said I'd been a medical office manager. He says, oh, you need to talk to this other guy from the band over here. He needs one right now. We chatted a couple of minutes. He asked me if I knew QuickBooks. I said yes. He handed me his business card and said, call me on Monday, we'll talk. I called him on Monday. Well, I sent him my resume first. And to speak about what you've been talking about this morning, I researched his company, and then I tailored my resume to his company. And then I sent it to him, tailored to what sounded like what he was looking for and needed. Talked with him. We set up an interview for Tuesday morning. An hour after having that interview, he called and offered me a job.
Wow.
And actually, I stepped away for a minute because he was back on the phone talking to me about my start date. So instead of returning to Texas on August 2nd, we're trying to work out me finding a place to live. So I stay here in Maryland and begin working. And then I will go back to Texas and get the rest of my things and move here. So networking, as hard as that is, like for me, that was one of the hardest pieces. That's why I kept coming back week after week to hear about the whole networking piece. That was, for me personally, was my biggest stumbling block. And as my son had said to me, he goes, well, really, you were just out in the world being you, and look what happened. And anyway, so
That's terrific, Sandy. Thank you for sharing that. Yay.
Yeah.
well, thank
So-
all of you. Thank all of you. Thank you. I'm so grateful for this group. There's someone else who came on here a couple of times, Sylvana, I think is her name. I know she also had some success in doing some networking, and she also started a new job as well. So I wanted to put that out there. So,
well, that is fantastic. And you know what, Vern, I know exactly what you're about to say. I know what you're going to say. And so I'm pulling up the slide. So Vern and I gave a joint presentation last night for Boomer Works, which is, for those of you who don't know, is a community service group that I run for professionals age 50 plus who want to re-career into self-employment. Anyway, we did Vern and I co-led a presentation last night on networking. So Vern was the first half, and he has a model that I'm going to share with you guys right now that he can.
And Sandy, thanks so much for such a great example of what you're going to see in this model.
Okay, good.
So Vern, take it away.
Yeah, this model speaks to any conversation you have with anyone, any place in the world. And you'll notice the first one is called an accident. And last night I was talking about, you sit next to somebody on a plane and you have this conversation, you go your own way. Most accidents are one and done because there's no exchange of information or contact information. You might have a great conversation, but it's one and done. But I said on the Zoom call last night, every once in a while, an accident turns into something much more. So the fact that you talked to the band who you'd never met before, right? And it's landed you a job. So, and obviously, as you look down this list, these are different identifiers, ways to think about people in your network. Acquaintances are people who you have a common contact with. Associates are all the people who have something in common with you, which is a tremendously great list of individuals, thousands of people, most of whom you've never talked to, but they're an associate in some way. And then when you have active conversations, your goal in networking, and the most important thing to anybody in the job search process, is to build mutually beneficial relationships where people become your advocates. They're actually helping you in your job search. They're actually, if they see something, they're going to call you immediately that they know that this might work for you. And then your allies are kind of the people that are closest to you in your life, your kind of personal board of directors, the people that no matter where they are in the world for the rest of your life, you could pick up the phone and they'd take your call, and likewise they could call you. So that's a quick overview.
Quick overview. And then the reason why there's a dormant there is those are the people, right, who it doesn't matter how long time has passed, you can pick up the phone and it'll be like no time has passed. And by the way, that's not even just for allies, right? That could be for all. Actually, I would even go down to associates. As long as you left on a good note, it could be 25 years. It does not matter. If you left on positive note, you pick up the phone, you send them a LinkedIn, a Facebook, or whatever. Hey, blast from the past.
Yeah.
Like no time has passed.
Yeah, just one qualifying comment. Allies will never become dormant.
That's true.
Yeah, allies will be with you your rest of your life. But all of those other relationships, advocates, your associates, your acquaintances, people come and go. You just said it, Sandy, you were in Texas versus Maryland. So, I mean, people move, people relocate, you relocate, you move. But if you've, as Shira said, if you had a positive relationship, if you've experienced the other person's character and their competence, and they've experienced yours, and you've worked together at some point, it's pretty easy to rekindle that relationship. And Shira and I are a great example. 15, 20 years ago, we were associates. Over these last 8 or 9 months that we've worked together on this and the Boomers Works, we've now become each other's advocates.
Yep. And we reconnected because of somebody in this group who reminded, who mentioned to Vern about this group. It's like, oh, I know Shira. And he called me. We hadn't talked in years. And here we are. And we see each other now every week. So networking is hugely important. And this is a really good framework to kind of think about all the different people in your life.
And again, Shira's mentioned a number of times, there is a hidden job market. And the only way you find the hidden job market is someone else is telling you about a job that you didn't even know existed.
Right. That's right.
Oh.
Exactly right. Good. Thanks,
Oh,
Brent.
Sandy, thanks once again.
Yeah. Congratulations. And please say hi to Carrie for me. That's great. That's great. All right. So who's got a question?
I'll ask another one
Sure.
if that's all
Go
right.
ahead.
So sort of piggybacking on Sandy's, then one of my challenges is presenting the fact that I am looking for work, particularly with people that you don't know very well, like maybe, you know, whether it's an acquaintance or further out. And that's kind of awkward when you're like, hey, how's it going? Da, da, da. Oh yeah, I need a job. So do you have can you provide any tips on breaking that ice with people that you don't know that well?
Yeah, so people you don't know that well, it is a little kind of in your face if, you know, you call your brother and say, you know, John works in XY, you know, I know John might be able to help me. Can you introduce me? And you go to John and John, I'm looking for a job. Can you help me? You gotta, with an acquaintance or somebody like that, you've kind of got to slow the process down. Try to find now let's suppose your brother's friend works in the same industry. Then I would ask your brother, can you introduce me to John? I'd like to talk to him about the financial services industry and what's going on in the industry and so forth and so on. So find something common that, you know, you might discuss the issues, the trends, you know, think of questions you could ask him that might help you learn more about, you know, the sector that you're in or what do you see going on in your world? At some point during that conversation, then it might be appropriate to say, well, you know, I'm currently in transition. I just left XYZ company. So it's been great. Thanks so much for this information. If there's anything that you could think of that might help me, but you can't just go into the say, you know, I'm looking for a job. Can you help me? That's kind of too much in their face.
Sandy, you wanted a comment?
I do. And David, I have to say, so I've been out of work almost 2 years. And especially in the beginning, it was very difficult for me to actually speak the words to let people know that I no longer had a job. You know, no matter the circumstances, it was still just very difficult. It got easier when the pandemic came around because so many other people were kind of thought of in that lost world of work. And all I can say is, whatever you can find inside you to put that piece behind you, the pridefulness kind of piece behind, and recognize and realize that you're still worthy and you have good things to offer, and just keeping all your gremlins behind you and putting those as far behind and coming forward with feeling that positive. And I think that's part of why my interaction works so well with all of this, is because I'm to that point of feeling that positive of, hey, they'd be lucky to have me, and that whole thing. So I just wanted to speak to that because it really at times ruled on me, and I'm sure with others that are here today that feel that same thing. If you're not working, that you've done something wrong, and maybe you haven't done anything wrong at all, and yet it feels that you have. So whatever positive spin you can put on that.
So to springboard off of that, Sandy, let's take it even to another level, okay? So, and I'm going to parallel this to what I hear when I talk to folks who are in the self-employed world. Okay, it's the same thing. When a self-employed person says, oh, but I have a problem marketing myself and I don't want to be too salesy, it's the exact same thing, right? Look, at the end of the day, it's not about you. It's not about you. It's about them. It's about the problems that you were there to help them solve. Sandy is able to get that job, not because of Sandy, but because somebody needed a medical office administrator, right? And Sandy was the right person who came at the right time to solve their problems. Nothing to do with Sandy per se. Now, Sandy's going to do a great job, I'm sure, right? But it's not about Sandy's ego. It's not about Sandy's, feeling of how she felt about her passion. That is irrelevant. They had a business need. Sandy can fill it. David, there are people out there who have a business need that you can fill. Whether that's in a W-2 capacity or for those of you who are in the 1099 or self-employed world, you're all being hired to do a job. If you have, I've said this before, if you have a leaky faucet and you go and you want to look on Yelp or you talk to your neighbors for the best plumber and you interview 3 of them, right? You pick one. Why? Because that's the person who's the best fit for you. The other 2 people that you didn't pick, it wasn't personal. Just wasn't the right fit. Okay. You've got to depersonalize this because at the end of the day, you are there to do a job. I realize how much personalization we take to it. Well, it's about my ego, my career, my this, my, no, it really isn't. You're here to serve, right? You're here to help people. You're here to make life better for somebody because that's what work is. It's solving problems. That's all that work is. We make a big deal about it. My compensation, my work-life balance, my career promotion, my relationships, my this and my that. Nothing wrong with those things. But when we overthink those things, we make it about us. It's not about us. It's about them. Okay. Does that make sense? Does that help?
Yeah.
Good.
And what a lot of what Sandy said is so important in terms of having confidence in your own abilities. You're there to do a job, but you've got to present yourself in a confident way. You've got to communicate your expertise to people as you're going through the job search. So as many people as possible know about what you do and how well you do it and how you can contribute.
Yep.
So that they can become potential sounding boards or links to someone that maybe does have a job that meets your skills and qualifications.
Yep. And actually, I just want to say one thing that just occurred to me, and I should probably make this a post. So for those of you who remember JFK, not that I was alive then almost, but not quite, but we all know the famous phrase, right? What did he say? Ask not what altogether, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. Let's change that word. Ask not what your company can do for you, but what can you do for your company? Okay. Think of it that way. All right. So Dia.
Just writing that down. I took a personal branding course earlier this year. I never finished it because I got out of it what I needed right off the bat. And I was never into selling myself and things like that. But the thing that I got out of it was I've got a set of gifts to give to the world. And how is the world going to know about those gifts if I don't tell them what they are?
Right. That's right. Hide your light. Don't hide your light under a bushel.
Yeah.
Sure.
The slide that Shira shared with you from the work I do with Contacts Count, the Contacts Count mantra is networking is not about talking and taking. It is about teaching and giving. So to your point, Gia, it's teaching people, communicating to people what you're good at. And it's also obviously giving back. And the way you do both of those things is you have conversations with people and you teach them about what you're good at and what your expertise is and what you're looking for in the job search. And if you don't do that, then how in the world are they going to be able to help you? So the logic is pretty simple. The more you teach others about you, the greater likelihood they can help you in some way. And you've got to learn those same things about those people so that you can give back. And I know all of you in the job search have met people who have really helped you at some point. And I know if there's an opportunity, you would certainly want to give back to them in some way, whether that's a small give back. I saw an article that, I thought you'd be interested in. I can introduce you to somebody in my network that I know that would be good for you to talk to. Or long-term, the advocates, the allies in your network, the way they give back is they tell you about a job that you didn't even know existed. And that's a real give back, right? There's an opportunity to advance your career.
Thanks, Vern.
Yeah.
Carolyn.
So I was going to just offer David a very simple formula. I've really upped my networking game in 2021. That was my New Year's resolution because, like Shira said, I don't think my job is going to be advertised. I think I've got to go out and figure out how to find it. And Bob Korzenowski with CNN, if anybody is familiar with that group, says all you need to do when you're networking is get advice, information, and referrals. And so it's not necessarily going to be that person you're talking to, but maybe a referral that that person has for you.
Right.
That if you follow through and do your due diligence and set up a time to go talk to the referral, ask that same person, that new referral, for advice, information, and referral. And I've been able to get, like, I don't know, 4 and 5 layers out from one person. And I have met so many wonderful people that I have been able to really grow my network. And it has sent me in the direction of a couple of interesting job possibilities. They haven't paid off yet, but I think I'm in the right, mindset.
Yeah. Yeah. Remember that networking is nothing more than a conversation between two human beings. That's all it is. And as long as you approach it right, as she just has indicated, most people, the vast majority of people, are willing to chat with you and talk with you.
And one of the mindsets you want to also be in, so it's along the lines of what Vern was sharing, but another is in a different little phrase, is be a go-giver, not a go-taker. Okay. So when you are in a conversation with someone, again, it's not about you. Start with the other person. Ask them about themselves. What's going on with them? What's keeping them up at night? Get them to talk about them. People, first of all, people love to share, right? They love to talk, but it shows your curiosity. It shows your care for them before you start asking about yourself. Get to know them a little bit. Could be on a personal level, certainly professional level, and then naturally the conversation should shift back to you. So by that point, you've actually earned the right to educate, to teach them, as Vern was talking about what's going on with you. Make it a relationship, not a transaction. Okay. See, how can you help each other? And if there's a problem that's keeping them up at night, maybe you can provide a resource. Maybe you go through your mental Rolodex. You're like, oh my gosh, yeah, I got a person. I got somebody who, I think you should speak with, and then follow up and make the introduction. Always do that. If you say you're going to do an intro, do the intro. What I typically do is, while I'm actually on that call, so Zoom it makes it easy these days, right? Because you can just, shift to your email. I'll actually start the email. Like, I'll actually have it open. I'll open Outlook and I'll just start the little intro. I won't write it then, but I'll at least have it as a prompter, just so I make sure that I come back and actually fill it out. So make sure that you do that. Be a good giver. How can you be a resource for someone else? All right. Any other questions before we wrap up? No? Okay. Well, with that, actually, let me go ahead. I always mean to do this and I always forget until the end. I am going to pull up the place where you can find the recording for today's conversation. Go ahead and put that in the chat box here. Okay. So it should be up another day or so. And with that, as a lot of you know, I actually offer a prayer meeting for a very short session right after this, for those of you who would like to stay on. For everyone else, we look forward to seeing you again next Friday. Feel free to share our group with your colleagues. As you see, our numbers keep dwindling because the job market is improving, so that's a good thing. But we would always love to help more people. So feel free to share this with folks far and wide. Okay, so with that, wish everybody a blessed day, and those who want to stay on the prayer call, we'll see you in just a minute.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Okay. So I noticed that Rick has not. Oh, so let me just end the recording here.